We're gonna open the meeting for Conservation Commission for 8/20/24. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. And has everyone looked at the minutes?
Yes, I reviewed the minutes.
Yeah,
All right, so can someone make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll move.
Haley? I'll take a roll call after I do this. Are you there, Haley?
She's not on here yet, Jimmy.
Eleanor looks like she dropped off.
I see
Yeah,
just
I thought
Eleanor, you and me right now.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, there's Haley up here. Wait a minute. All right. Well, let me do a roll call.
She's back.
You
Yeah.
need a second, you need a second to the motion first.
I was gonna skip that and go, just,
You can't.
okay. Can I have a second for the note, for the minutes? Haley, can I have a second, please?
Minutes.
Ms. Paul.
Now you can do the roll call, Jimmy.
Okay, so, let's just have, Haley,
Here.
no, you're gonna accept the minutes.
Oh, okay.
So you're okay with the minutes?
Yep.
Okay, so you're in, Paul
Yes,
and me, I'm okay with that too. I'm gonna go back and do a roll call.
is Eleanor on?
I'm here,
Oh, yeah, Ellen, how about
and
you?
I'm fine with the minutes.
Okay, so let's do a roll call.
Uh,
Ken's not here. Take my time. Paul,
yes, I'm here.
Haley,
Here.
Eleanor,
Here,
and I'm here as well. All right, so now we can get back to the agenda. We have DEP file XXX. Notice of resource area delineation, request for determination of wetland boundary, boarding vegetated wetlands, as well as to confirm the area is not within 100-foot floodplain. Is the applicant here for this?
I am.
That's Libby.
Hi, all.
How are you?
Good.
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 Welcome
So,
back.
are you guys ready?
Sure. Jimmy, are you ready?
I'm ready, but I have no picture right now. But
Libby, I think you could start.
yeah, I think you're gonna have to.
Okay. For the record, I am Elizabeth Wallace from Hayes Engineering. I am their wetland scientist. I am representing the applicant, Alex DePietro. We are asking you tonight to, review and determine the wetland flags that we have done on this site. And determine that there is no 100-year floodplain on the site. If I may, I can pull up my plan and give you an orientation tour.
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, let's see if this works.
Okay, now,
All right, can everybody see that?
Could you make it a little larger?
Yep, I will.
That's better.
All right, so our locust parcel is directly behind the Dunkin' Donuts at 518 Salem Street. You could see these 4 parcels here. We have 2 developed parcels, one at 484 Salem, and that's this sort of odd shaped one. And then we have this rectangular one, 504 Salem Street. Both have houses and other development on them. We also are including 2 vacant parcels, both noted on the assessors as 0 Salem Street. As we move on to the actual parcel. So this is our parcel, and let me go out a little bit. So these are the 2 houses I was talking about, and this area over here and this parcel here are the ones known as 0 Salem Street. Getting back to the flags, we have 50 flags on the 2 sites. The 2 lots are combined for this purpose. And the wetland boundary is here in green color. So you could see that it sort of goes around all the development. I have shown the 50-foot buffer zone in blue here. The entire locus is within the 100-foot buffer, so I chose just to do the 50. We are not within the 100-year floodplain. There are a variety of wetlands and wetland types on this property. We have forested wetlands between 484 and the Dunkin' Donuts fence. This is all wooded. It transitions into an open wetland marsh out here with phragmites along the boundary here. And in parts of the boundary in back of the 484 Salem house seems to be edge of fill. This area has been disturbed quite a bit. We transitioned back into forested wetland in back of these garages. And as we progress over to the right, there is a woods road that goes down towards Jessica Lane further down through the wetland. And we show a piece of that gravel road right here. Looks like it has the mumps. The driveway to the 504 Salem Street is gravel as well. So it goes down towards the house and patio. The wetland here is actually within the yard that was established in the back of 504. We have a variety of grasses and sedges that have come up. So this is open marsh. This is actually a cattail marsh further back from 504. As we go to the right, this is an intermittent stream along the property line. So it's a forested wetland over here and forested wetland on this piece, 0 Salem Street. This area coming into the property is pretty well disturbed. Looks like it was at one time cleared and then regrew. You can see stumps and all. So that pretty much summarizes it. I'm happy to answer anybody's question. I can unshare if you wish.
Well, I think right off the bat, we've got to go look at this. I've been down this on other occasions. I think we've looked at this property. And my recollection is it's pretty wet out there, but I don't know, where that line is in relation to the higher grounds. I'm just going by memory.
Mhm.
I definitely think it needs a close look. I do think it's fairly flat, isn't it?
There are actually areas where it's been filled and there's a little bit of a slope transition. But yes, for the most part,
Yeah.
in the back of these houses, it's pretty flat.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone want to add anything to that? Because I'm just thinking there's not too much to talk about with this right now until we take a look at this.
Here.
Sorry.
What is it that they're hoping to do here?
This is an abbreviated notice of resource area application, and what we're asking you to do is review our flags and hopefully approve them so that we establish that 100-foot buffer zone.
Yeah.
We are also asking you to confirm for us that there is no 100-foot year floodplain.
Mhm.
This is just a preliminary step before we start designing anything. Just the property owners want to know what's out there, how much area they have to work with, or whether they want to work with anything. So this is just a formal way of having the commission lock down the BVW lines and all.
I think that's the best way to do it. So you have no objection to, well, does anyone have any questions? Anyone out there?
I just have one. Libby, are you available this Friday for a site visit?
I am, yes, yep.
1 o'clock, I could meet you on site?
Sounds good. 1
Okay.
o'clock Friday. Yep.
Okay,
Libby, did you submit that plan with the NRAD application? Because in looking through the application, I don't see it.
Huh. I thought I did. If you guys need another copy, I'd be happy to give you some additional ones or email it to you.
Email
I
would
think
be
it was
perfect.
in a separate email, Paul.
Oh, it's a separate email? Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I
Thanks,
also
Lily.
see it on the commission's website under current projects.
Okay, all right. I'll go dig it out of the other email then. Thanks.
Any more questions? I think I got. I think I
I
got
don't,
it.
were there ever prior notices of intent or enforcement orders, any kind of history on these properties that we should be aware of?
I don't have anything.
Jim, do you want to set up a site visit?
Yeah, I do. Let me just. Yeah. So you're gonna do the sidewalk on when, Elaine? What day was that?
Friday at 1 o'clock.
Friday, this Friday at 1. Okay, and. Too bad you couldn't do it on a Saturday. Something then we could have everyone come up and look at it at the same time.
I'm
No?
sorry, can't do it Saturday.
All right, when do you want to do a site walk? Paul, any suggestions?
Let me look at my calendar, Jimmy.
Eleanor?
Eleanor, you're on mute.
Saturday early, otherwise I can try and join Elaine on Friday at 1. It just depends on my schedule.
That would be Saturday the 24th. Yeah, I'll be back. I'm going away for a few days. I'll be back Friday night.
I unfortunately will be away then.
Okay. How about next week?
It's not possible for us to do it on like this coming Saturday.
Well, Haley can't make it.
You guys can. I won't be around.
And this
So it would
Sunday
be
is-
3 of us.
This Sunday is out as well.
I still won't be back. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, so what about the following weekend? The following weekend, anyone okay?
Let's
Yes. What
see,
time?
There's only 3 of us. We should, should go.
is that the 31st you're asking about?
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
I could do later in the afternoon on the 31st.
How late?
Would 2 o'clock be too late?
I'm fine with that.
I can
I can make that.
probably make that.
Everyone can make that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Eleanor?
Yes,
Where would we meet?
There's a driveway going right, it's right behind Dunkin' Donuts. There's a driveway. You can just go right down the back. I would think it's a big area you can park.
There's plenty of parking there.
Yeah.
So as you come into the Dunkin' Donuts, just go straight, you'll see a opening in the fence and you just turn left into the driveway there. Or you could go around the takeout thing and get yourself a coffee and then turn
Yeah.
right into the driveway.
Do that too, I guess. Okay. All right, so that's set. Everyone's in agreement. You have no,
So Saturday the 31st at 2.
Judy will send out the
Thanks.
notice, because she's probably already sent it. Okay. Libby, is that it for you?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you very much, Libby.
Thank you all. Have a good
Thanks.
evening.
2.
Okay, the next one is Daniel Road.
Hey folks, how we doing tonight? Bill Renaud, town engineer, for the request for determination of applicability at Daniel Road. So I can share my screen quick. Up. too many screens open on my.
Bill, not to interrupt, but this is the same thing as you're doing on New Salem Street then, right? Or Preston Street?
Similar, so yep, same idea with the lining. Difference is that this is a drainage collection system in the discharge, so I don't have to dewater the stream and pump it around. So that's kind of why I filed this as an RDA as opposed to a full NOI.
Okay,
So, so I'm assuming you can see my screen.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
see the blue lines that are here. So just to orientate you, so we have Mill River down here. Salem Street's coming across the screen. You can follow my cursor. We have a drainage system that goes cross country into Daniel Road, collects some stormwater from Daniel Road, and then that eventually discharges through an easement to this wetland area that is adjacent to the Mill River. There is a railroad. The railroad path is kind of in this area as well. So they kind of stay separated, and then there's a culvert that kind of connects them all across the street in Salem. So essentially, the proposal is to allow us to have a small collection system at the end of the pipe to collect the condensate that happens from us lining the pipes. So what they do is they blow up essentially a big giant balloon inside these things with some resin on the top that gets cured through through a steam system, and then the steam is essentially the condensate that we collect. What we do is collect that and then discharge that down the sewer system. We don't obviously want it to go into the wetlands or anything like that. So pretty straightforward, lot less invasive than us actually trying to replace the pipe itself. Pipe's in good enough condition that we can line it, and we think that's an appropriate approach here. The pipe's 36 inches to corrugated metal pipe, about 153 feet. The pipe will be corrugated when we're done. It'll just have more of a coating around the outside of it to protect it. The bottoms of these pipes typically corrode. That's why we're out here doing that. So that's the project, quick nutshell. I know I'm going fast on it, but we have 3 of them to go through, and I think the last one's gonna be a long one. So I'm happy to answer any questions on it.
Just to understand, Bill, it's
Sure.
basically a liner inside the pipe, and it's like a 2-part resin that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and so we access through a manhole. So there's a manhole in Daniel that we'll access from. We push the system through. It also goes down to the end of the pipe.
Mhm.
End of the pipe is kind of perched at this point. So, really, we would just be having something at the end to collect the condensate
Right.
that's going to flow through. And when we pull the little balloon back, that actually pushes up and makes the liner.
Okay.
So do you need to do anything except go through the manhole? Do you need to get in there and remove any vegetation? Or can
No
you do the
veg.
whole thing through the manhole?
No, the pipes. So the pipe is kind of sitting perched at the end, and there's really no vegetation at the end of the pipe. So, like I said, we would have almost like a small little tub that collects it. This is done essentially in like a day. So we do some cleaning just to get the stuff out of there. We would collect that material as well. There's not a ton of debris in it, but we still clean it before we line it. And then, like I said, just collecting that condensate when we're done, but it's minimally invasive. I mean, normally for this, we'd have to excavate the whole thing up. We'd make a mess out there. It would be a different conversation. That project, obviously, I'd be in the bank and excavating through it, so I'd be coming in for a notice of intent for that. But in this case, we don't need to, with it being in the condition that we can actually line it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
How long would the collection at the end need to be there for? How long is there going to be runoff from whatever these resins are that you're putting in?
It's only hours, just for it to drain itself through as they pull the liner out. And then we obviously do it in a time frame when it's not raining, obviously, because we don't want to deal with the stormwater and whatnot. With this type of system and this type of project, that's easy to do. So we just watch the forecast and that type of thing.
Bill, is this an intermittent stream?
The stream that's here,
Yeah.
the Mill River is perennial. The wetland area, it's really just it's a draining system for like a wetland area that's upstream, and it stays separate from the Mill River. Like I said, it connects through a pipe down, down across Salem Street. So there's 2 culverts coming across here. Well, actually, really 3. This is a dual culvert system, and then we have another pipe that goes to connect to the Mill River.
But it is a river, so you could have riverfront there, right?
Riverfront, so we're showing it up here. This is the riverfront area for the back. So that's the purple. Because obviously we have a pretty sizable offset from where the real bank is for the Mill River.
And what is this, the stuff that's coming out of the pipe, or the stuff that you're putting into the pipe? What did you say it was?
So there's a so it's a resin that goes onto the pipe, so it makes it more of like a cementitious type of material.
Hmm.
So that's what stops it from corroding, and we try to line these corrugated metals if they're in good enough state. Not all of them can be. Some of them are completely disintegrated on the bottom, and we have to dig them up. We do that a lot too, but in this case we don't have to. So.
Okay, and there's no hazardous stuff comes off this pipe, right? I mean,
Well, that's why we have the collection system. So all of that, gets collected into like a little tub, and that will be removed so it doesn't get into the wetland. So typically we do this a lot for sewer lining. So we do a ton of sewer lining in town. So we're usually doing somewhere in about $750,000 to $1.5 million per year of this type of work in sewers. Obviously we can just let the condensate go down the sewer when we're done. In this case, we can't. So that's why we have we'll have a plastic collection system, and then that will be removed and brought to the sewer, where it'll be pumped into the sewer to get for the discharge.
how much waste does this generate to line this pipe?
We're talking maybe a couple of 5-gallon buckets.
Oh,
Not a lot. Yeah, it's not a lot, because it's really condensation from steam. That's really what it is.
okay.
Sorry, Bill, in your project description, you said there would be dewatering and cleaning of the pipe?
So we have the dewatering of the pipe, right? So that will be pumped. Any water that's in the pipe would be pumped into the drainage system, right? And then we're showing some potential dewatering in a little cofferdam, but realistically, that would only be if there was a high water situation, and if you wanted us to condition it so it's in a low water situation and I don't have to dewater, we're fine to do that.
25-foot square area around the culvert outlet. Okay.
Yeah. So so it's showing a little sandbag area that would just be around the outside. We'd stick the little tub inside this to collect the condensate. Typically the water level is well below this pipe, so it sits in a perched condition.
Okay.
And we've been looking at it a bunch to see, we've been planning this thing out for the better half of about a year or so, trying to design some upstream stuff that we're doing currently. So, in looking at all of this, we've checked this area out a bunch, for how high the water gets. And we really don't see the water level coming up. Right now, if you're out there, I believe it's all, for the most part, sandy or dirt, just muck.
And then it's conveying, I'm just sorry, it's conveying water, like untreated water from where?
Drainage. Yeah.
Drainage.
So surface.
Storm drain.
Storm
Storm
drain.
drains. Okay, from the road. Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So is that the whole thing?
That's it. This one's a quickie. The other one's a little bit more involved.
Okay, but you have some blue on the left side here. Is that getting done as well?
That will be, but that's outside of the system. This area right in the road was good, so we weren't looking to do much there. The only real work for the permit we were looking at really was within the 100-foot. Obviously, we trying to do an alternative analysis for the riverfront. I mean, the pipe needs to discharge. It's existing. We're just doing maintenance.
Yeah, we saw that. All right. Well, we need to have a discussion about this. Elaine, do you have any comments?
No. It's clear to me. We went out to take a look at it. We being Ethan and I went out to take a look at it last Friday, and it will be a minimally invasive process. There just isn't that much vegetation around there, especially with that pipe that kind of sticks into the stream. So no, it seems very straightforward.
Bill, the pipe that's on the right side of this, where it ends on the right side of this drawing,
Right here.
right, yeah, right there, that's a manhole, correct?
This right here, no, that's that's the end of the pipe in the little collection
So it
system.
goes open stream from there, so those other two lines of the stream itself.
These are this is yeah, the blue that you're seeing here, that's the intermittent component, and then this is the Mill River. And then we have the railroad bed between them.
And so you're gonna be putting sandbags on,
Just around the outside of the pipe. So, you know,
just around there?
yeah, and again, you know, just because we're gonna have a couple of folks that are gonna be walking through there, you know, obviously to collect the condensate. It's really just to make sure that we're staying away from, you know, and,
Yeah, no.
but like I said, there's no vegetation there. We're not really bothering anything, like Elaine said. It's
Yeah,
more just kind of dirt and muck.
okay. I guess I don't have any. Alright. Anyone else have any issues with this, Eleanor?
Nope, I'm good.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Okay,
So
we
we
can,
move, we need to move then that we don't need
that would be a negative.
Negative determination.
negative determination. Okay. I'll move that.
Need a second.
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Roll call for this. Haley,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Eleanor,
yes.
and I guess I'm a yes as well.
Okay.
All right, so that one's done.
One last question. When are you looking to start, Bill?
We'll be bidding this, so I'm thinking this may end up being something that's, you know, a late fall project.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if not, it would be spring next year, somewhere in that time frame. But if there's any time restriction that you want us to work in, we're happy to do that.
All right.
So the next one is Preston and New Salem Street.
Yeah, so let me jump in on that. So you folks may recall, going back a few years, you can still see the screen, I hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just moved it on my computer. I wasn't sure if you could see it. So this was so downstream of this area is the New Salem Street culvert that you folks approved. Geez, I want to say that was in 2000 and I was here in 8, so probably 8 or 9, right around that time frame. It did incorporate this Preston Street culvert. The original proposal was a slip line project through here, which would have reduced the opening significantly, and with the grouted in so that you know, to have a much smaller pipe through this area. We ended up with some issues with some ground, you know, needing some ground supports to be installed for the larger culvert downstream. That was a budget constraint for me, so we weren't able to get this part of the job done. We bid it kind of as an additive, what we call an additive alternative, so like a separate, you know, separate part of the project that we can either award or not award. So the project now is we're coming back in a similar situation. We've gone through and reevaluated the condition. We can clean and line this one as well, and it's something that we'd like to move forward with. So obviously this is a little bit more involved. Besides coming here, we're also going to need an Army Corps of Engineers permit to do the work to bypass the stream. So our proposal is to sandbag up the upstream side. We would install a pump system to bypass the stream down by the culvert and then discharge downstream of another sandbag system. On the interior, we would have to do some dewatering. That would be pumped as well. And we have this basically a filter stock. So it looks like a big, I would say it's a big mesh, kind of filter bag, like a silt fence bag, essentially. And so what happens is I'm sorry?
Yep.
So, yeah, silt bag. I'm sure I don't know if folks have submitted those to you in the past or not, but
That's going to be at the downstream end.
Yep. So we put that all the downstream end. That's where we would discharge.
Mm-hmm.
So really, basically, the work stays within this area. We would restrict this work to be done during the low flow, obviously, because we're within the river, so we would have to do that. So we'd be looking at sometime between July 1st and November 15th to get this work done. Similar amount of time we're thinking, I mean, a little bit more to clean because it's a longer culvert. This is about, I believe, 250, 300 feet or so of culvert. And, that's really it. We work around schedule with, around potential rain events, that type of thing. We would need to dewater within the work zone area, so inside the cofferdam sections. And so we're not showing where that discharge would be. My intent would be that it would be tied in with the pump system that's bypassing, but we will let the contractor, the way we typically do this is we let the contractor size the pumps and do that as a submittal to me to review, looking at the upgradient and the watershed that's coming down. And we'll pick up usually a design storm somewhere in like the 10-year range is typically what we would size this for. So this would be close to probably like an 8-inch discharge pipe. And depending on how they want to work with the pumps, they can pump both into the same pipe, or they could choose to do something different. But I would propose that we would have a submittal to you folks. Once I approve what's submitted from the contractor, you guys would also review it, or Elaine or the new conservation agent would review it for approval, as well as the dewatering within the work zone. So that's the project in a quick nutshell. Again, this was previously approved. We've just kind of tweaked the design to be kind of matching the capacity of the pipe a little bit more. It's kind of similar to the last one. So the corrugated metal, that corrugation that's in there would just be, lines, so it still would have the corrugations. So flow coming through will match really what's coming through today.
Right, Bill?
Yeah.
If you look at what you put for a direction of stream flow,
Yep, stream flow is coming down. Yep.
it seems to me, let me see if I got this right.
The stream is flowing
Got
from
the streams
right
flow
to
going towards each other.
They're going right to left. So this is not, it's a little confusing. I think the labels is the problem. So this stream is going this way, this little sign. This is for the turbidity curtain that's downstream that we had put in.
So the arrow is only pointing to the turbidity curtain.
To the turbidity
not the
curtain, yeah.
direction of
You
flow.
can't see the arrow because the turbidity curtain label is over it. So it's a little confusing. I noted that as I was prepping for the meeting. So I didn't catch that when staff was designing it.
All right, so the water is flowing.
Right to
Right
left.
to left.
Yeah.
Left.
And then
Sorry, what is turbidity curtain?
so it was included within the plan set. It's what I would call it is like there's a floating kind of almost like a pool noodle that sits on the top. It's a curtain that flows and basically goes through down to the stream and is held at the bottom by a chain. And so as we're discharging all of this stuff between the cofferdam and the turbidity curtain can collect any potential, anything that's stirring up that's not being picked up by the filter bag.
Hmm.
So we do that typically. Anything we're doing in a stream, we'll always do a turbidity curtain. We use this same configuration within the previous permit that was approved, and on the downstream culvert as well. They work pretty well. It's kind of like a belt and suspenders, if you want to kind of think of it that way.
How big is this turbidity curtain? Is that the blue lines?
It's the green line that's right here. This is that's the wetland line. The blue is the wetland line. The green, it's this little half moon that's here. We had a detail within the plan set. I can find that quickly on my computer.
You should look at your notice of intent. Go through.
Yeah, it should be in the notice of intent. I just got to get to the notice of intent.
that. Do you have that on your computer?
I do. I'm in the office computer. So I'm in the office today. So I can pull that up quickly, I hope. Apologize for the delay with this. I probably should have had it set. Just take me a second to click through. While I wait to pull that up, any other questions while I'm waiting? Besides
I
the
do.
turbidity curtain?
I have a question, two questions actually.
Fire away.
When we went to visit this site, it was
Yeah.
very overgrown.
Oh, yeah.
So do you need to take any trees out?
Not for this, not for this. I mean, we'd still be working within, the footprint of the previous, of our previous one. So I'm expecting to keep it in the same location.
Okay, and
Yeah,
my
no
second,
trees would be cut down for this. No, we'd work around all of that with our
Okay.
cofferdams and with our dewatering stuff.
okay, and the rest of it is the type of vegetation that'll easily grow back. My
Yeah.
second question is, will this make drainage in that entire area run better than it does now? That area suffers from a lot of level topography and backup. Will this help?
Yeah, it definitely does. Unfortunately, I mean, for us to fix the drainage out there, it is a situation where you would be dredging the river pretty much to the town line. So, this is a situation where we have holes in the pipe and we need to make sure that it doesn't collapse. So that's what we're doing here. It's more of a, maintenance of the existing condition. We've opened up the pipe further down to get some additional flow through. That has happened. How much of an appreciable flow that would be, that's a tough one to answer. This was all identified as part of a town-wide study that was done prior to me being here in 2006. And that advanced this whole project, prior to me being here. So, I kind of took this on as we had a staff member that left, and then it came into the engineering group to manage, the construction and the final design of everything. But all of the pre-work and all of that design stuff was all done prior to me.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, tough for me to answer that. So can you see the plan of the detail plan here?
Yeah, I can. I have one question. I want to ask you one question.
Sure.
As part of the project, can we have you clean some of the stream on the upstream side of the brook?
Yeah, well,
Clean out the brush that's, anything that's obstructing the flow of water in that area, at least 50 feet in, or unless you hit some real big stuff.
if you want to condition it and the limits we can work out with Elaine, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, we could do that, because we should take the advantage of cleaning that area while we're in there. I would think.
Yep. So this kind of shows how the turbidity curtain works. So, each section of it is connected through a PVC slot. There's this little vinyl coated cable and float that sits to the top of it. And then you have these kind of chains to keep it together so the water can flow through. This is all kind of a mesh, so water's going through. Ideally, sediment is being trapped behind it. So the turbidity, if there's any turbidity that's being discharged outside of that filter bag, it would be caught here and not continue downstream and all the way down through the river. So that's the idea why we do these. And this was included in the original NOI with detail. So that's and you see the chain on the bottom. That's what keeps it tight to the bottom so that it doesn't get bypassed.
Okay.
So we did receive a few comments from the DEP. I don't know if you folks had a chance to look through that. I can run through those answers quick. I think I've probably covered most of them. Yep, sure. So the site plans are not adequate for review and should be revised. Well, I think we've just done a review, so I would disagree with that comment. Wetland boundaries greater than 3 years old should be redelineated or refreshed. Elaine, I believe you went out there to take a look at this stuff too. Realistically, it's a pretty steep embankment that goes down. So you're not going to see wetland creep where it's going to go beyond over time. It's pretty much the river level. I mean, it doesn't really change from that. So we were using the same flags from before. Obviously we just didn't finish the project, so we're just going to come up there to do this piece. We should be showing bank delineation and that type of stuff. Those are essentially at the wetland flag. Elaine, if you want to maybe chime in on that, but we've used this delineation for a couple of different projects There was another one that was done where there was some discharge coming from across the street that kind of dovetailed and used some of our erosion controls. So I think we've kind of looked at this area pretty extensively through different projects. But I'll leave that to Elaine. Project narratives and plans should be provided to describe how wetland resource areas will be restored in kind. We just talked about that with some of the veg and stuff that we're going to be removing and cleaning up. Clarifications needed to explain why the project should be categorized as a limited project. So this is a fee 3 limited project, routine maintenance and repair of road drainage structures, including culverts, catch basins, blah, 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 blah. So that hits that limited project delineation or designation. Dewatering within the limit of the work is inevitable. I kind of talked about that. We like to have our contractors do the design so that we can get better pricing. If I come up with something and they can figure out a better way to do it cheaper that still gets the interest, I get to review it. So ultimately I would agree or concur with their plan, and then, you know, I would request that we condition it so that you know, staff, whether the new conservation person or Elaine, review to make sure that it's consistent with what you folks would want to see. Sizing of the bypass stream, kind of the same situation there. We talked about that already. And then punch to explain how access to the culvert would be attained. Stream bed material being removed. We talked about all that already. And cleaned in preparation of the pipe being completed. So, yep, they still go through. It's more like a mandrel that they pull through to clean it. At the end, they collect all the sediment and remove it. So everything stays within that cofferdam area, and so all the work in there. Yeah.
This has a lining to it as well.
It has a lining, yeah. So, you know, with the stream bed, it's a little bit different than the pipes we had before. So I'm cleaning just a little bit of sediment in the bottom. When we get to these situations, obviously there's a lot more material that's there that gets moved from the stream. So we have a little bit more cleaning to do than typical. So, you know, as we're pulling that material through the pipe, what we'll do is when it gets to the end, they're still working within that cofferdam dewatered area, and they remove that material and restore it back to the way it was previously. And again, if you want it to extend, then we extend.
You mentioned steam crossing standards, which you say you complied with. But
So we can't comply. It's just, it's not possible. So if you look at the way, you know, to meet the stream crossing standards for a run of this extent, this would need to be probably 4 times the width of Salem Street to meet your stream crossing standards because of the length of it. So it's just not practical based on the configuration of the site. So.
Okay, but what I was thinking about was, it says all culverts should be embedded, sunk into the stream, a minimum of 2 feet.
Yep.
In round pipe culverts, at least 25%. So, I mean, so are you gonna do the same thing? You're gonna take the sediment out of the bottom of that to line it and then put the sediment back in? Or
Now, you're putting the sediment back in this type of situations, you know, pretty difficult just because of the configuration. Smaller pipes, I wouldn't have a problem doing it, but I mean, I can't get folks in there to do it. So, you know, realistically, because it's a lining project, I don't really have that ability to do it. I'm typically happy to do those things, but in this case, you know, we're trying to save the town a ton of money by lining it, as opposed to, you know, me going to town asking for a bond for, you know, $500,000 to replace this culvert. And, you know, keep in mind, I'd have to go through all this private property with the shed, the house, the fences, and all the stuff through here, wiping out a bunch of trees on top of the culvert too. So it's, you know, I'm just trying not to do all of that stuff, you know, to minimize how invasive it'll be.
Is this liner the same type of material as the other one?
Yeah, it would be the same. Yeah, I would probably bid, I'm going to bid both of these together.
So and I looked at your pictures that you show of the culvert.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like the culvert was really in bad shape. Looks like it was pretty much roughed through.
Not the whole way. Yeah, it's bad in sections, so it's not bad everywhere, so we can still line it. You know, there's certain sections where I've had other ones where the whole bottom is completely gone and it goes almost like half up the culvert. Those are the ones that you can't really line. But you know, we had some protruding like stones and things that you saw on the bottom. That's still lineable. They can get that through and take care of that. They have like little patches that they put. That's basically what they'll do, and then line over everything.
But what I saw in those pictures was it was like the halfway mark on on the circle, it was crushed somewhat, so.
It was on edges though. It's not the whole way through, like we typically would see.
Okay, but your liner that you're gonna put on there is gonna reinforce it? so
It
that-
does, yeah, yeah, it has strength to it. That's the idea. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
next time, Bill, if you could put down top and bank and bottom of bank,
Yeah.
we should have that on these plans. It is a resource and should be identified.
Yeah, I'm comfortable doing that going forward, yeah.
Two things, Jimmy, can we take a walk out here and look at this? And two, is anybody checking the waiting room since we have a number of hearings and people may be dropping in and out?
I have been checking the waiting. I just let about 5 people in. Mhm. There's only one wants to get in. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if we want to do a site walk, I have no problem with that. If that's what the commission wants to do.
Yeah.
You want to just do it the same day to make it easy? Or
Yeah.
since it's
Yeah,
down the
'cause
street?
it won't take long. You're gonna bring some boots. Is there any water in the stream now?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, bring some boots because you have to get down to actually see inside.
If you're gonna try to get down there, it's gonna be a challenge, so it's pretty steep.
Well, from the 93 side, New Salem Street, you might be able to have a better chance. I don't know what the other side looks like.
You're thinking Saturday to do this?
Yeah,
The 31st,
Which day you say? I'm sorry?
the 31st.
The 31st, okay. Did you want to do it? Do you want to pick a time on that?
what do we have for the other one?
We're doing the other one at 2, so
2:30?
2:30.
That sound all right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we're gonna continue this, Bill, to
Yep, no problem.
take a look at it.
And then, was this a limited scope project? I thought I saw that.
It is, yeah. I talked about it. So limited project. It hits what it's called it's the C3. So it has the different types of projects in the C section. So number 3 is drainage related. So that talks about road drainage structures, culverts, catch basins, as long as they were in existence prior to 87. This has been there longer than that.
Okay, but it's not like an ecological restoration project.
No, that's different sections. Yeah, they have
Okay,
different
okay.
sections for limited projects.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks. That's all I had.
Does anyone have questions about this before we leave this out of it? Anyone have a hand up? Anyone? Bronwyn, do you have any question?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next one.
All right. I'll share my screen again. We're back in.
Yeah.
And
Other ad.
one sec to pull it up.
This one might get some interest.
This might get what?
Some interest.
I think so. Yeah, we got a few more plans on this one to talk about. So, so this project is the former Butler Woods subdivision area, 94 Butler Avenue. This was submitted to you folks a while back. I want to say probably close to 9 months plus. So originally we had a plan that we had developed looking at regrading this to cap this lower area. So kind of orientate you to the site. Butler Ave is to the left. We have a wetland area below this blue line. That's all wetlands. There's essentially a ridge that comes down with a bunch of kind of outcrops and ledge through this area, up around where the 100-foot limit is. That's this red line that's shown. The majority of the work will be within this buffer zone. Currently, what ended up happening, this was a fill area from the former Wakefield High School that burned down. At some point, some folks at the time decided to put a lot of the material in here. It has some asbestos impacted soils. We also have you know, a good amount of debris and other things that are in there. So so we've been talking with the DEP for a long time. So that was probably one of the first things I did when I got here in 2008. As part of that first initial conversation, we talked to them about, you know, what we had to do in this area. Jim, I think you were with me at the time in that meeting at the Wilmington DEP office, where the DEP agreed that we could go and cap this rather than removing this, as long as we were to make this restricted for passive recreation. So the proposal here would keep this area basically running right along that ledge line as a new passive recreation area. Going to our next plan, so the proposed, this kind of shows what we would be looking to do. We'd be looking to regrade the slopes as about a 2-to-1 slope that goes down to the wetland area. We'd be looking to put a new 18-inch cap on top of the whole entire site. Portions of this would be regraded so that we'd be able to get a gravel path that would go down. I'm sorry, is that all right? So gravel path that comes down to a little sitting area here. We would have a few kind of granite benches for folks. Our goal after some of the site walks that I've had with Elaine and with Jimmy are to look at, you know, trees that we can salvage. So these trees, the green trees with the circles, are trees that we've identified as possible salvages. There's a couple that may be on the edge of the slope that we have to determine if the debris has impacted it too much or not. But this would be the area that we would try to save trees. The light cyan, this light blue color, would be new trees that we'd be planting within the cap as well. So we have a kind of a specialized overlapping of the fabric and cap to make that work for the tree areas. So we would propose to do that as replacement trees. And then we would be looking for the majority of this to be seeded as a wildflower mix. So this would be more of like a meadow type look through this area. So that was something that Rebecca and I were talking about way back when we started initiating this project and talking about kind of what we'd want to see out here for a final end product. Looking at the kind of the topo and what we're looking for, kind of cuts, fills, and that type of thing. So these red areas that we have to peel back. So if you want to think about it, we have a 2-to-1 slope that's going right down to the wetland line. For us to cap that with 18 inches on top, that would impact the wetlands. Obviously, we don't want to do that. So we need to peel back 18 inches of material so we can put the cap back on top of it. So that's what you're seeing with these red areas where we'd be kind of carving them into the site, trying to flatten out this area. It's very hummocky. As this was just kind of, dirt was just kind of pushed around out here. And debris is all over the place. The blue and purple areas where we're looking to add some fill, where we'd be taking these cut areas. The goal is to keep the majority of all the soil on site. We would have removal of large debris that can be picked out of the soil. So if you looked in the NOI, we had some examples of blocks. We had examples of, twisted metal. There's a whole slew of things that are out here in the soil here. So what we could pick out for the large debris would be put into an asbestos dumpster, essentially lined dumpster. All the work would need to meet the mass contingency plan stuff. So over the last 6 months or so, we've been boxing up all that stuff on the DEP side. So we filed our phase 2, we filed our phase 3, and our phase 4. So the next piece is our actual non-traditional work plan. So that says this is how we're going to actually do the work. And this is why we need your folks' approval on what we're doing for final end product. So that's why we're here to discuss it. So DEP had comments for this project a long ways back when we were doing our initial plan. Really didn't change a ton from this. We made some minor tweaks just on looking at the cuts and fills. But, you know, really all the stuff that they were talking about is about the contingency plan and going through that process. You know, phase 2 was submitted in April this year. July, we finished the phase 2 and phase 4. I'm sorry, phase 3 and phase 4 investigations. Those were all thrown into the DEP. So, you know, basically we need our last submittal on the approval of essentially the how we're going to build it. And that's what we're here to talk about. So I think that's it in a nutshell. I know I'm going fast, but I think that kind of covers it. Just to kind of give you an idea of what the cap looks like. If I zip through here. So this kind of shows a good example of what the slope looks like. So you see you have the large debris coming through, and then we have these clumps of things, and it steepens up and does all of this. So what we're doing is we're peeling back debris, getting rid of these types of humps and things. We're not touching any place past the silt fence that's there, so that would be edge of wetland and what we're using, and we're going to hold that as our limit of work. Any trees that are down in this lower area, there's a couple of them that, you know, where it flattens out behind it that we can salvage. We're going to salvage those to the best of our ability, as long as they're not damaged based on what was placed. Because keep in mind, a lot of these were, you know, some existing trees that would have been in the old wetland, and you know, they've had you know, debris basically thrown right on top of them. Anybody that's in good shape, we kind of identified those, and we would keep those trees as our you know, for especially near the wetland area, provide the shade over the wetland area. We'd have some erosion control matting so that this stuff doesn't move on us. This kind of shows the layout of our little path that we do. So stone dust walking path, pretty flat for the most part, so we're not expecting a lot of drainage issues. We'd have a little swale to the side of it for the hill that's coming down, so anything that's coming would get caught by the swale and just gently overflow into the wetland as it does today. And I think this is about it. Yeah, so there's a liner as well that's included as part of it. So we have 6 inches of loam, 12 inches of common burrow that would be placed, and then under that is the geotextile fabric. So that's our cap, the risk reduction barrier cap detail. So I think that's about all I would cover. I'm sure you're going to have a boatload of questions. We show about how this would happen around root balls for the risk reduction barrier and how we move some of these things around with the grading to be able to get the new trees in. And then we have existing trees, how we can overlap around them too. So it's all contained within this, within the details. Northeast wildflower mix would be everywhere. So we kind of did something similar to that on the hill by Floral Way and going down towards, you know, towards Vets Field. So we do something similar to that. You know, with an aggressive maintenance plan that I would assume you folks would condition over a few years for maintenance and maintaining. We've been kind of working on that, as you know, for the last couple of years for the wildflowers on that slope. We'd be doing the same thing here to get those to take, weed them out, all the weeds, and get this to be essentially self-sustaining after a few years.
And the wildflower mix that you're talking about would be native?
Yeah, New England wildflower mix. Yeah, similar to what we used up at that hill. So they make it. There's a native one that we can use, and you know, there's you know, there are a few other ones that are even a little bit more prescriptive. I think that the folks at Cabot and Forbes had a pretty aggressive mix blend. You know, we're happy to have the mix blend reviewed as you folks too to make sure everything's native. But it's all a Northeast, you know, wildflower mix. So well, that was the goal, to keep it all native.
Bill, with this system of capping, what
Yeah.
is the final use of the property? What are we going to be able to do as far as?
It's basically open space. It would be in your folks' care. You know, we'd have either a subdivision where I would divide this as a separate lot, or I may do it as a you know, just a restriction, or you know, we're figuring that out. So I think I'd like to work through that in this process to some degree. Okay. You know, the only thing is that some of the stuff on the top, you know, we would, you know, to offset some of the cost for this for taxpayers and whatnot, we're looking at some, you know, maybe some a small affordable housing development type look. That's one of the things that the council has been asking me to evaluate. I've also, as the ADA coordinator for the town too, you know, I talk a lot with the Disability Commission. They'd like to see some disability housing there too. So we're trying to see if we can kind of meld those two asks into, you know, a pretty small development. We're thinking small cottage type things to be closer to the neighborhood. Wouldn't be like a garden style apartment at this point. That's not what we're looking at. So, but that's all outside of the buffer zone and outside of,
Yeah.
of this project.
Well, so I guess I'm back to where you're putting this cap. So,
Yep.
what kind of use does that entitle you to? Like, can you, I mean, if you're gonna put houses up there, are you gonna have kids coming down there trying to play out down there and,
If they choose to walk, I mean, it's a pretty steep hill. I mean, if you remember when we were walking, I mean, it's
oh, I
a
know.
ledge hill, right? So,
Well,
yeah, I mean, if folks want to go down there, I kind of envision this as kind of a little like nature walk thing you can go to and hang out. You know, we'd have some benches there that like some granite blocks that can't be moved, and you know.
I picture the kids playing baseball down there or something. It's gonna be a
Well,
wide open.
That was why we went with the that's why we went with the wildflower mix. I mean, they're not going to be playing it because it's not going to be mowed as a you know, as a playing field. It'll be wildflowers, you know, so that they would have essentially a little bit of room off of the path that we're going to create. My intent here is that this is more of just like kind of a natural area, more of a, you know, kind of a natural passive section for folks to do something. DEP told us basically it can't be a field. So that's not something we're looking to do.
Okay.
Yeah, passive recreation, not active. So
No, that's fine with me. I just wonder if that's the reality of what's gonna happen.
well, if you condition it, I have to make it happen, right? So
I know your part will be fine. I think it's just it's just human nature.
yeah.
To areas like that. All right.
Well, it's you know, I think all that stuff is in the restriction too, right? So as we're writing the restriction and finalize that,
Yeah.
you know, we would have all that detailed out that it, you know, has to stay as passive, you know, this stays as a meadow, as a wildlife corridor, whatever you want to call it. So it's there and it's in the documents for the property and it can't be changed. So
It
you have
won't
that.
be mowed, Bill, is that correct?
The intent is not to mow. Yeah, I mean, similar to what we do at the you know the hill. We're not really mowing
Mhm.
those down. I mean, they're perennials, and so they should be coming back. It's just making sure that the stuff that's junky that we're getting in there to weed it out,
Mhm.
you know, so that the natural stuff can take over, and then the natural stuff will stop everything else from coming in.
Mm.
So there's a maintenance component to it, no doubt. We're thinking we can get it done through 3 seasons. I mean, that's typically what we would condition here anyway. That we typically look at a 3-year horizon for kind of the maintenance of those types of things. So we would do that same approach here.
Can we go back to the other map for a second? Can you point kind of in relation to what we're talking about where you're saying this possible development would be?
So see the house up the top here? It's up on the top
Yeah.
of this hill. So it's kind of up in this area.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm thinking somewhere the line in the I gave you a plan that showed kind of a proposed line in the initial NOI filing with you. That shows what I would expect that to look like. I can probably find that quickly if you want me to show you what I was thinking. So this is kind of a shot of the debris that we were talking about. And I just put the back here, what we were thinking.
Hmm.
What's the name here? I don't. Tim, do you remember where you put that? From like 4 years ago or 2 years ago when you did that?
The like the map for the subdivision you said?
Not the subdivision, but at least like what would be the restriction area?
Oh, I mean, if you go to the revised NOI plans, I do have one of the plans does show the top of the hill. You just kind of
No, but we included a map that showed.
Let me look real quick.
I'm looking for it, Tim. But we showed kind of what we thought would be the restriction area. Essentially, what I'm doing is kind of going through the middle of the ledge area as for the location. Mhm.
If you want me to share my screen, I can show you that map.
You get it? All right.
Yeah.
Let me stop sharing. Your turn. You're on. Yeah, so here we go. So this is the thought. So the parcel, this gives you the overall parcel. Development area. Probably somewhere in this. We have a big gully that goes through. There's some other wetlands in the back. That would come in as a separate filing in the future. And we're thinking this whole section would be either conservation restriction area or subdivision in a lot. Showing the approximate area that is contaminated, that's extended a little bit further, but we'll offset that and put that, anything that we're touching that would be wildflower related and removal of material or capping would be incorporated into this as part of the final plan. So we did this more as a sketch just to show you what we're thinking, but so this is what Rebecca and I were looking at initially way back, but we've had some tweaks to it based on some additional testing, but generally this is what we're thinking.
Are the crosses down to the lower left, are they the wetland area, Bill?
Yeah, so that blue where the blue X's are, that's all
Yeah.
wetlands. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Bill, on the NOI filing right now, it says attachments, proposed conservation restriction area plan. So we don't have anything for that now?
This is the plan. This is that plan that was included in the original NOI.
Oh, this is that. Okay.
This is the proposed conservation restriction area.
Okay. So that other part where the development would have has quite a bit of elevation changes.
Huge elevation change. Yep.
Yeah, so I would think that would have to be modified. Are there any restrictions? Like, did the licensed site professional give you sort of use restrictions on the area that was capped? If you have adjacent properties right next to it, so.
Yeah. So the thought was that the AUL wouldn't extend into the upper section, right? Because we wouldn't have an AUL. We have a small area where it looks like there was like a can of motor oil or something that got spilled. That would be cleaned up by the house. We would demo this house. There's a pile here that would be removed and added into this area. And then this site would be clean essentially. So they didn't dump anything up top. So it was all below this ridge line. You can see all the crazy contours there.
Philip, you gotta annotate because I'm the one sharing the screen.
Oh, I can't. Oh, you can't see me doing this. That's funny.
Sorry,
No.
AUL stands for?
Activity use limitation.
Okay.
Yep. So there would be an AUL for this. There would also be the conservation restriction too. So this would be belt suspenders. Nothing's happening in this area ever.
So you couldn't put like a parking lot down here in the future?
Nope. No, they wouldn't allow it. No. So
What about the rest of the parcel?
The rest of the parcel? So I looked at I'm thinking I'm subdividing this so that it would be separate and there would be no AUL on this rather than restricting it. And then the upper section would be a separate parcel. We do have a little finger of wetlands up here. So that would have a buffer line. So like up by where it says William Street, there you go. Thanks, Tim.
There's a finger of wetlands up there. Okay.
Up there, yeah. And so we would come back to you folks when we're looking at whatever that development will be. But, I haven't even advanced anything on that at this point. This has been the focus to close out this bottom section. That's the focus right now.
Bill, can I just ask you about the conservation restriction? Is that going to be a deed restriction or is it going to be an actual state conservation restriction?
It would, it's either going to be a state conservation restriction or it would be a separate parcel that we subdivide it and give you the parcel.
Okay, thank you.
It's one of the two. It depends on what we finalize on the top is how I would probably do it to determine which one, because I may need a little bit of additional frontage depending on what I end up doing at the top. That's basically the only reason that we would change it. So the thought, when this was purchased at town meeting, this was discussed as the upper section would be a potential, smaller scale development, but again, small scale. And, that would help to offset cost here for the cleanup work that we have to do. And so that would have been a fall 2020 town meeting, I think, when all that was discussed. We purchased the property in January of 21. So so it would have been November or so of that fall town meeting that all of this would have been discussed about, the restriction, and then the development at the top.
I guess, Bill, I was concerned on the unshaded side. Are you guys doing work there at the time, that would kind of change sort of drainage and flow and things coming into this capped area? Like, are there any kind of restrictions on that? Like you can't, I don't know, dewater onto a capped site like this or something like that? Are there any restrictions on?
It would be we'd have to meet our typical bylaw, right? So we would have a stormwater design that would need to be done at the top of this. But there's a lot of investigation that would have to happen. So if you're looking at like those dark lines that are at the top, those are all ledge outcrops in different areas.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of ledge stuff going on, what
Yeah.
actually could be done and how this would all work. Again, I have to evaluate it. It would have to come back to you folks if I'm
Okay.
within 100 foot from the wetland. So if I get in that 100 foot, you folks would be all over it to let me know what you
Not
think.
only that, Bill, but the runoff from that area seems to be going in specific direction, so.
Yeah, but we do have swales and stuff kind of that are in that in the area to get stuff around, and it can move into the wetland area. So the thought process was that we would be doing so I can't send any more water down here than I am sending today. Volume and rate, that's how we review it for all the projects that come through. Nothing would change. We'd follow the same stuff that we hold everybody else to. There's no difference.
Okay. No, I was just worried with that stone gravel path that it would just wash away because you have this water coming off there. And then I was curious how, I understand it's supposed to be accessible, but Butler Ave is pretty narrow. I don't know how, and I'm not sure those sidewalks are accessible, so I'm not sure how somebody's supposed to get in here if there's no parking anywhere around. So, I mean, that's just a logistical thought.
Yeah, no, we'll build the trail. So even though it's gravel, as long as it's maintained, is considered, an acceptable surface. It's like a stone dust or tight gravel, but we have to maintain it. The point about the sidewalks and the widths, that's a good point. Typically what we do, so, obviously as the disability coordinator, I look at this on all of the streets that we pave. So, that's when we're looking at making these accessible. So right now, the public rights of way accessibility guidelines have a requirement for a 4-foot wide accessible, what they're calling the pedestrian access route, so the PAR. So it can be 4 feet wide for the majority of it, pinched down to 3 in small sections, but every 500 feet has to have a 5-foot wide turnaround. That's the requirement. So we look at all of these things as we're paving, and that would be something I'd have to look at, when I come in to do, Butler Ave. Where at this point the condition of Butler Ave really isn't bad, so we wouldn't be looking to pave this. I think we had on the plan some patching related stuff, but that wouldn't trigger the full ADA upgrades. So we wouldn't be doing that, but it's a good point, and we look at it in every street that we pave, and we run into it in sections. One of the ways we get around it is we use the driveway aprons as that, so we make them the sidewalk, a little bit farther there in those areas. We can cheat the curve a little bit, but that's how we make it happen.
Okay. Just because Floral Way, I don't think the grading is as
that
deep
meets
nearby, and that kind of washes out.
Yeah, well, so the original proposal there was to pave it, and I got so much pushback from our historic folks that they basically required me to go with the gravel. What we did is actually design it with a system so that it won't wash out as bad as it used to and won't get into the lake, so we have pockets where the stuff goes to. So it's not doing what it used to. So what it was doing was washing everything out into like essentially one low spot that would consistently overtop and erode. And that's where we had the invasive species area that we were removing and did a little work in. So, we wouldn't envision that type of thing happening here. And The floor-away is graded, for ADA, so that's why the grade changes. If you look along the edge of the like where the fence is, that's why there's some elevation differences so that we could get the grading right. The maintenance is the thing, and it's on the schedule for this fall, I believe, to be up, to be brushed up and fixed. So.
Are you gonna be adding
Probably.
vegetation?
I was gonna say, additionally for that path, we are looking to include a small swale along the uphill side, just to
Yeah.
help with some of that runoff and keep it from washing over the path. I'm not sure if you can see I have the detail right here.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if it's showing up or if it's the old one, but there's a little swale.
Where's that going to drain to, Tim?
So it basically will be taken to the end of the path and then allowed to kind of, spread out over the hill that it would be going down anyway.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so that's what we have, I think, in a nutshell. Any other questions, folks?
See, does anyone else have a question? Anyone want to speak up?
You don't have a
What's that site
contractor for
visit?
this yet.
I'm
What's
sorry.
that?
say it again?
You don't have a contractor selected for any of this work yet.
At this point, we don't know.
Okay.
No, I need to get this approval, and then at that point, if I'm locked in on the scope, I can move forward with, with the contractor.
So sorry, it's not the licensed site professional who does the work? No?
No, he oversees it. Yeah, so we have that, and then we also need to have an air quality monitor. There's a whole slew of professionals besides myself that are involved in this thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you
So
think
you
you're,
hire them and he over,
He
oversees
oversees
it.
certain aspects of it. There's reports that go to DEP about, so really the management of the debris, the development of the cap, the air monitoring, all of that's done through different folks that are all working to make that, consistent with what we propose in our final plan. So final plan doesn't get submitted to DEP until we have you folks kind of on board with the approach.
all the debris you collect goes off-site to landfill then too?
It will, yeah. So it goes into, because it's considered asbestos impacted, I'd have to put it into a lined dumpster. So you may see us do that on water main replacements in towns. So, if there's any asbestos line pipe, there's some of those, that old transite pipe, those are replaced. I mean, obviously they're prioritized. I don't think we have any left at this point, but you may have seen us do it in the past. So, those get, we don't crush them. We put them into a lined dumpster. The dumpster gets folded over, and then there's a whole, manifest scenario, and it gets shipped to a specific, place for it to be removed. But
Bill, does the slopes that you're gonna create to the wetland, is that gonna require a different type of vegetation to maintain the cover?
no, I'm envisioning the same. I mean, it's no steeper than the hill by Floral, right? So we're
No,
going to do
I'm,
the same
well, I'm
idea
just thinking,
in
I'm
that
just-
like we did.
I'm just thinking that in that area, you're probably gonna be a shaded area where, as the open area that you're
Mhm.
making, it's gonna be open, so. I don't
If you
think-
folks think it makes more sense to go to a different vegetation, I'm happy to do it. But I mean, I think you'll get the growth. I'm pretty sure you get the growth on it. We'd also have the fabric. So there's we have an erosion control mat that we'd be using for that stretch anyway in the steep sections, because we obviously don't want it to erode. So we'll have that going on too. If that vegetation doesn't take, I think we can condition it maybe. Again, we got that 3-year monitoring kind of vibe, right? That's how we do it. We do it for wetland restorations, that type of thing. We just kind of follow the same process here. So if the vegetation doesn't take, we need to make a change on the type. You folks are involved in that conversation.
Yeah.
And conservation department is involved.
Okay. Anyone else have questions? Does anyone else want to see the site?
Bronwyn has a question.
Bronwyn?
Yes, thanks. I have a lot of questions. Um, through you, Mr. Chair, is this plan that's been presented, is this what will happen? no matter what is done with the other portion of the site?
No, that's the question for you.
Yep, yes.
Okay. And does that include saving the trees no matter what is done with the other portion of the site?
Saving the trees, so again, there's a lot of trees that can't be saved because we have to excavate to
Right.
put the cap in. The ones that we're showing as saved, I mean, they're really to the maximum extent practicable. We're gonna be peeling material around it to make sure that they're still competent. If everything's good, the ones that we've identified, we think are candidates for salvage. That's kind of how we're looking at it. But yes,
Okay.
the answer to that is yes, if you're talking related to the development component of it.
Who would decide if
I
it's
think-
salvageable?
What's that?
Who would decide if it's salvageable?
Well, I think as we're moving it through, you can condition it that someone's looking at it.
No,
with
I'm
us.
just asking, oh,
No, I'm saying that you could condition it that it could be the conservation agent. It could be
we should get
Elaine,
some.
whoever we want to do, right? Well, Elaine's a conservation agent too, so I'll just say both of them. They can come and help me out with that. We just don't want to make sure that, we're not gonna, I don't think we want to be doing situations where we have trees that are kind of on the cusp, because with the other veg being removed, they're gonna get higher wind loads, all that type of stuff. We just don't want the stuff breaking and, damaging, the good trees that are gonna survive.
Sure. Is there any chance that any of the material that's being capped, you mentioned asbestos, could that travel to the developed area of the site?
So that's why we have, air quality monitoring that goes on. All as we're doing the work, we spray everything down. There's a process that the DEP uses and asks us to do for this type of stuff. So our LSP is the person that wrote the SOP for the DEP for this type of work. So we've got pretty much the number one professional for this type of job, to make sure that we're using in the right methods. And so his team lays out that whole process. And then our contractor chimes in on some of the means and methods that he used, and they kind of tag team it, submit it to DEP, and then they do the monitoring and all of that stuff. So they'd have to stop if the monitoring goes too high. So there's a whole process. Again, belt and suspenders to make sure that this isn't an issue for folks.
Okay, I meant basically underground. I mean, eventually water's going to, no?
It doesn't leach out of it, so that's why you can cap it.
Okay, all right. Was there any oil spilled on this site?
Up at the top. So there was a garage that was there. So we had like a little dry well. I think you might have dumped a couple of things of oil down it at one point. Those would just be excavated, removed. And then we would move forward with the project to get a clean bill of health up there.
Okay, and are there any other toxins that you know of? Any heavy metals?
So there were some metals that were found, but everything was below detectable limits and below things that we would have to report on and do. So all of that gets submitted to the DEP as part of it. I mean, I can provide you the reports, Rowan, if you want to hit me up, offline. I'm happy to give you what was submitted. It's all public record. So
Okay, yeah, that would be great. I'll do that. Thank you. Also, I did look a little bit at the topography. If there's blasting required, because you said there's a lot of areas of spotted ledge there, is that going to be a problem?
if there's blasting at the top, well, it depends on what we're doing, and I don't know what we're doing yet, so I can't answer that. I would
Okay.
assume nothing I'm going to do is going to impact the work that we just did, right? So we're not going to. This is a town project, so it's not a developer coming in and doing what he wants to do. This is, the town identifying what it wants to do through its town council and how we
Right.
want to do it. So we're going to make sure that's not a problem. That's definitely part of the charge when I'm looking at this.
Okay, because if there's ledge, there may have to be some sort of blasting, and I'd be very, very concerned about that because someone's gone through an awful lot of trouble to bring up plans and renderings of a potential 40B there, which I feel is being pushed.
Here, there's no plans for a 40B that I'm aware of that I've seen. That's not happening. That's for this one. I'm tasked with coming up with some concept designs and bring it to the council. So I haven't done those yet. So there are no plans on this property aside from what may be in my head at this point. So they're gonna come out onto pen and paper at some point and, you know, we'll present it all and see what we think we can do. But again, I haven't got into the details of it. I have some test holes and things that I need to do to verify what I think is possible. And so we're at
Well,
the,
not on the conservation land. I meant on, you had mentioned development.
yeah, just development. That, you know, what it's going to go through the town council. They're the ones that are the stewards of the land right now. You know, we're not at this point necessarily looking to just hand off the property to a developer to have them come through and build what they want. So, you know, there's dialogue on what this may look like. So the concept right now that has been discussed is more of like a cottage style type thing. So it's small cottages that would be used. So there's standalone small units, kind of fit more in the neighborhood. So we weren't looking at garden style. There's no 40B application. We have none of that going on right here.
Okay, well, there are renderings of a proposed project. So someone's clearly thinking that it could be an option. There may not be a formal 40B application as of yet, but 40B has been bantered around for this property for years now. And if there are renderings of it, I'm just concerned that what's done with the capping and the toxins capped, that whatever is built there, and I'm assuming something's going to be built there.
Yeah. We think so.
That it doesn't interfere. Thank you.
Yep, sure.
Getting a little far away from where we should be talking. Anyone else have any questions they want to ask? Bill Boudry, did you have anything you want to ask? I see I used to.
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman, but thank you for asking.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go take a look at this. Is that right? Actually, am I not gonna be done here? Oh, you haven't seen this, and Haley hasn't seen it. Do you want to see it or what?
Yes.
I think it'd be a good
I
idea.
think that's a good idea.
I thought we talked about doing it right after the other site visit
Yeah.
You want to do
on the
that?
31st.
Haley, what do you think? Can you do it too?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Okay.
We already have 2 site visits on the 31st.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the one looking at the pipe is not gonna take too long.
Okay, so it's like the Dunkin' Donuts development and then looking at the pipe.
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts could take a while.
This, I think, would take a while.
Yeah, this would too. Yeah.
Yeah, this one, you folks really need to dress appropriately, just as a heads up. You need boots. I mean, there's sharp objects and things that are all over the place, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, a ton of ticks, so just keep that in mind for this site.
We could do it the same day, but it'll be,
Yeah, let's do that then.
I'd prefer it to be like right after if possible. If I'm coming in on Saturday anyway, I'd rather do both. If you folks are on board with that.
What do you want to do?
I said I'd rather do it the same day. If I'm already coming in on a Saturday, I'd rather kind of do it the same day.
okay.
If you folks don't mind.
We actually probably don't need it. You don't want to come.
Well, I think it might help to kind of point to stuff, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't want me there, I'm happy
I'm just trying to give you a break. I know you've been there.
I do appreciate it, but I'm probably going to be at the culvert too, right? So it just makes sense to do them both.
Okay, it's fine. We like you.
I like you guys too, so it's good.
So we'll do it right after, like at 3? Is that what we're thinking? 3:15?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think the culvert's going to be pretty quick, to be honest with you. And just I'm just being out there a bunch myself, trying to show you kind of where things are and what we did for test holes and the debris and whatnot. I don't think it's going to be a long one. I mean, it's under an hour, I would imagine. I mean, think, Jim, when we walked it, were we even there for 45 minutes? We might not have even been there that long.
Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Just depends on how much they want to look at, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to continue this until our next meeting.
Okay.
Well, I'll bring some plans out, folks, so we can go through all of it and you know?
Yeah. Well, one other thing is the granite that you're showing there, that's gonna be a bench.
Yeah, like a big granite block that folks can sit on. I want, because it's not really around anything. I don't think a regular bench is a good decision. So,
Okay.
you know, I think that's not going to move.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them already that are there now, some old granite
Right.
blocks. So, yeah,
Yeah.
those get a clean bill of health. I can reuse them. If not, I'll purchase them.
Repurpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's expensive now.
Recycle. What's that?
Granite's expensive. You should try to recycle.
Well, you can buy like the blocks already pre-cut. We got some folks that have that already.
They have one guy in Wakefield will get it for you.
We do. We'd like to use him.
Okay, we're all done then.
Okay, cool. I'll talk to you folks Saturday the 31st.
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Have a great night, guys. Appreciate it.
Too.
Okay, so we have now up on the agenda a discussion about Lake Quantapowhat's invasive plants. Cry is here somewhere, I think.
Hello, I'm here.
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Bree Reynolds. I am the Vice President of Friends of Lake Quantapowhat. I'm very happy to be here tonight to talk about some of the work that our group has been doing for invasive species management around the lake. I should start off by saying that this is a relatively new work area for us. It's only been in the last couple of years or so that we've started doing this a bit. And so I'm happy to answer lots of questions. And I'll also say that I'm not necessarily an expert. I'm definitely an enthusiastic amateur when it comes to invasive species, but becoming more knowledgeable by the day, I think, for what is on the shorelines of Lake Quantapowhat. Should I give just an overview of some of the work we've been doing, and then as questions come up, I can answer those?
Yep.
All right. So we started about 2 years ago at Gertrude Spalding Park on the north end of the lake, the area where there are stairs coming down and some granite blocks there for people to sit on, looking at the lake shore. That was pretty overrun with invasive species, things like Oriental bittersweet or Asian bittersweet. Purple crown vetch was another big one in that area. Bindweed, and what's the other one? Oh, garlic mustard, lots of garlic mustard. And so we worked with the town to have that area. They sort of helped us strip it a little bit on either side of the staircase and remove some of the bigger growth that had been there. And then we and some volunteers from a local company, Weston and Sampson, came and hand pulled everything else. And since then, we've just been hand pulling and cutting and digging and that sort of stuff. So just what we can do ourselves, no machinery, no heavy equipment, no spraying of herbicides, anything like that. Of course, because we're not licensed to do that, and I don't want to get into that sort of thing myself. And so what we tend to do is just pick a small area like that and start with lots of aggressive hand pulling. Usually it happens once or twice a year. We start in the spring because that's when they're easiest to access because the native plants in the area haven't grown up yet. And so at Gertrude Spalding, we were able to clear that area pretty well. I believe it was the spring of 2022. It might have been the fall of 2022. I always get that timeline confused, but somewhere in 2022, we began that work. And now the area on either side of that staircase is a maintained pollinator garden that we're adding to each season. With all native plants, or mostly native plants, I should say. There are a couple that are not native, but not invasive plants that we've put in there. And then this past year in that same area, not by the staircase at Gertrude Spalding, but along the shoreline at that north end of the lake, we've been working on the same types of invasives. So the bittersweet, and in that area, there are also invasive orange daylilies. So we've been digging those out. We did that this spring in particular, and if you look at it now, you can really see the native plants that have taken over the area, which is really nice to see. There's a huge amount of Joe Pye weed and common boneset, a lot of goldenrod coming up this time of year. So there's still a lot of work to be done, but you can see more of those beneficial natives and a lot less of the invasive plants in that area. So that's the Gertrude Spalding work that we've been doing. So very small focus, not spreading it around the lake too much, just because we are a volunteer group with limited resources. And then what we've done this past spring, just this year at Hall Park, is we worked with the town to identify what native plants were already growing along the shoreline. So typically the town had been cutting right up to the shoreline, cutting very low to the ground, the grass, and not allowing things to grow right on that shoreline. And so they don't do that constantly. So we were able to see at the early spring what was starting to grow. And it turns out there are a lot of native plants that still exist in that area, even though they're mowed year after year. And we identified one patch that if you're in Hall Park, there are 2 birch tree patches that are about 30 feet apart, maybe 35 feet apart. And between there was a beautiful stand of native plants. So similar to what I described on the north end of the lake, lots of Joe Pye weed, but also elderberry and jewelweed, the native swamp loosestrife, not the invasive purple loosestrife, but the good one. And so we asked the town if they would not mow or cut that one area between those birch trees, and they agreed. And so we've been maintaining that as well. So we've been mainly wanting to see what would grow up in that area first and removing some invasives as we monitor it, but really just getting a sense of what's in there so that in the spring next year, we can go in earlier when the native plants haven't been growing yet. But the invasive plants are popping up because they always come up earlier, and pull out things like bittersweet, the purple loosestrife, which is the invasive one, some bindweed, and things like that. So another small patch, but just trying to keep it manageable for the size, group of volunteers that we have, and so that we can cultivate the good stuff and not let the bad stuff kind of overrun the area. So those are the 2 main parts that we've been working on.
So do you have to go out and buy plants to fill these gaps after you pull out all the invasive stuff, or how do you do it?
We did at Gertrude Spalding Park because that along that staircase, it seemed like more of a formal garden setting. It wasn't the wilder areas like along some of the shoreline. There weren't any really great natives that were already growing in that one spot. So we did go and buy plants from local native plant nurseries. So in Ipswich, there's the Monarch Gardener, and then down in, I think, Norwell maybe, is Blue Stem Natives. So we bought most of our plants from those places. But along Hall Park, the only thing we did was identify what was already growing in place, what our native plants were already there, naturally occurring. And we just left it alone and let them do their thing. So we didn't have to put in any new plants. No money was spent, really. It's just the hand pulling and digging in Hall Park to get rid of the invasive plants that are there.
How many people do you have helping?
At Hall Park, there are about 5 of us. We're actually meeting tomorrow. There's a new group of volunteers. We have people every now and then, come to the Friends of Lake Quannapowitt website and say they're interested in volunteering. And so we've had a number of folks over the summer who have said that they want to volunteer. So we've got 5 new folks who I'm talking to tomorrow. But for the Gertrude Spalding work, it's been, well, should shout out Rob Weddick, for anyone who knows Rob. He has been the bittersweet guy over on the Gertrude Spalding area. It's basically him who has single-handedly pulled a lot of that bittersweet out. But then Weston and Sampson are a great group of volunteers. I think we had 16 or 17 folks from Weston and Sampson come in for one evening. It was about 2 hours of work. Up at that north part of the lake, working on the orange daylilies and more bittersweet and things like that. So, and that's just one time. And then we come in, Friends of Lake Quannapowitt, maybe 2 or 3 of us once or twice over the summer, and do a little bit more work. But as the native plants grow in, it gets a little bit harder to work in the area. So we tend to be hands off until the fall, when things start to thin out a little bit more.
Hey, jumping in, Jimmy, can you let Eleanor in? She got kicked out and is in the waiting room.
Sorry about that. All right. Any other questions?
I got bounced out, so I missed a lot of it. But no, I've been excited by the work that Bree has been doing in terms of turning the focus to sort of restoring the natural habitat. I think she was instrumental in identifying some areas around the lake that were predominantly native. I don't know if you had a chance to talk about that, Bree. And just sort of taking that, hey, this is good quality vegetation, let's leave this alone. And it's been quite stunning. Like right now, the clethra is in bloom, sort of near Gertrude Spalding Park and right near that beach there. So I think that's exciting for, for folks in town to see that, or all the natural Joe Pye weed and which we don't say weed anymore, the Joe Pye and the Solidago that's coming in. And I think it just, is helpful in terms of being a buffer for the runoff into the lake. And it's just exciting to sort of see the natural beauty. But that's all.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention actually the clethra stand. So thank you for bringing that up. On the north end of the lake, there's that beautiful area with all the birch trees near the shoreline next to the sandy beach. And underneath that is all clethra, Clethra alnifolia. I can't remember the full botanical name, but it just, I think, finished blooming, but it's beautiful when it's in bloom and it smells really wonderful. And that was in another area where we just asked the town if they would not cut. Normally it's very shrubby. Clethra is a shrub. And so normally they were cutting it pretty low. So it didn't really have a chance to grow more to its full height, which can be, 4 or 5 feet tall. And it's a nice shade shrub. And so now that it's been able to grow, we were wondering if anything else would grow in the area because of the lack of cutting. And it's really just the clethra. There's very little other, invasive species or plants that you wouldn't want growing in there. So I think our approach to trying to identify all the beneficial plants that are already in place, already naturally occurring, that keep popping up every year, even after being mowed for so long, really lets us do low impact management of those areas. So we're not coming in and digging out a lot of stuff that's there and then planting in brand new things. It's really things that are already existing, and all we're doing is just removing the invasives that get in their way. So it's low impact, it's low cost, and like Eleanor said, for the water quality of the lake, more of this along the shoreline is definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
Especially to stabilize the banks, like on some of the other sides.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
Well,
all.
Eleanor showed me what you've been doing down there. I think it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Are you going to be extending out beyond the townlands? In terms of your efforts, or are you limited essentially to the town properties because you can't access things like the edges of the cemeteries and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for now our focus, there's so much land that is town owned, or at least, accessible, pretty easily accessible. So for now that's been our focus really.
Okay.
And areas where the shoreline is usually mowed quite a lot, we're trying to bring some of that back.
Okay.
Just to stabilize shoreline and provide habitat and all that good stuff. But yeah, and we also are a pretty small volunteer group, so there's only so much we can work on at one time.
Understandable, yeah.
Yeah. But Paul, there's another patch. You talked about that on Hull Park.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Looks like Bronwyn has a question.
Bronwyn, you can go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm very, very glad to see that some attention is being paid to the riparian zone around the lake, and anything we can do to get the town to stop cutting down to the water would be great. And if we can do anything about, the lower common, that's a nice a riparian zone down there that's people friendly, but goose unfriendly would be something. I've been trying to do that for years. you'd still get to see the lake. There wouldn't have to be any, I don't know why the town keeps mowing right down to the water, but it's distressing. Anyway, I did have sort of I guess a technical procedural question is that, while this work is really needed, I'm kind of curious as to why FOLQ has been doing this when, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me as if this work really comes under the auspices of the Conservation Commission. So I'm kind of wondering why things hadn't been coordinated before this time.
You're talking about doing the vegetation around the lake? Why?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with pulling of the invasives, which absolutely, needs to be done, and putting in native plantings, which is wonderful. But isn't that really the auspices comes under the auspices of the Conservation Commission? And that's why I'm just wondering why things have not been coordinated up until this point with the Conservation Commission, which I think is probably everyone would be able to get more done, and share information and share workloads if there was sort of more of a team effort. So I was just wondering about the process, how that came about. Anyone? Bree?
I can speak to our, role. Just really, I think one of the reasons that we're here today is to have, more of a relationship and build that more. I think Friends of Lake Quannapout is definitely interested in that. I don't know any, a history of the collaboration or coordination between our two groups. I'm relatively new to FOLQ, but I definitely think that there's lots of opportunity there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that would be very, very beneficial. But I was more speaking because this is a wetlands area, that the lake is a wetlands area. And so therefore it just seemed to me to be, maybe I'm missing a step or something. I don't know, or am not up on the history of how this all came about. But it just seems to, because it's wetlands and it concerns the lake, that Conservation Commission should sort of be not heading it up, but working hand in hand with FOLQ. And I hope that continues moving forward. That would be great.
Well, I think whatever works to get the job done, I think is the way to go. I think they're doing a great job taking this on. It is within our jurisdiction, of course. I mean, it's bank, and we have regulations for bank, and I mean, as long as you're doing it within those regulations, I don't see what the issue would be.
I agree. It should go, there should be some type of reporting to the commission. They should be in the loop with this. It shouldn't be a separate process. Because ultimately you have the responsibility.
Right. So I think we could work on, like standards and things like that, that sort of govern how we work together, or what's, potentially business as usual, but something extraordinary. I think that's how other civic groups work with their commissions, like, sort of operating procedures or vegetation management plans. So that's something we could think about. And then the advantage of something established like that means that if, Bree moves on to other things, that stays on sort of, with the lake, regardless of who is coming and going in volunteering. But that would be my suggestion.
Memory.
What's that? What's the
There's
institutional
memory.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'd be very happy to work on, anything like that, any sort of guidelines or, regular reporting, things like that would be welcomed, I think, from our side.
They set up a system where you can monitor how far you've gotten and what you've done, and hand that off to everyone else that's going to follow up behind you. Is that what you're basically talking about? Monitoring program?
Yeah, but she has a process for volunteers, but Jimmy, I think some of the vegetation management plans that govern the towns just govern the type of removal they're doing. It's typically not a whole lot of, it's more selectively removing things so that the natural buffer can restore itself as opposed to like an active mowing plan or something like that.
Okay, so you're gonna like identify areas of the lake that have different species to pull. I mean, I'm not sure. It sounds like you're creating a lot of paperwork in my mind, but
I think Bree already has something, but
okay.
I've just started creating, because we have more volunteers interested in this, just started creating some guidelines for to give to our volunteers that essentially go over how to do this work, within, guidelines and all of that sort of thing, that you're targeting the right plants and you're using the right methods and being as low impact as possible. So yeah, I'd be happy to share that once those are complete. They're pretty much done. But share that with the commission, and if there's a regular, meeting that we'd like to set up. I think this is probably a learning experience for us all. It's not something that, FOLQ has historically done. And it sounds like the work is something that the Conservation Commission likes to see too. So hopefully we can share in the ideas for it and share the outcomes too.
I have to say, I could see the difference myself with what Eleanor had shown me. It looked, even though it was highly vegetated, it looks really different. It looks kind of nice. It doesn't look like a bunch of weeds. It looks like it's got purpose. So I thought it was very, what you've done.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. That's the approach, is we want it to look on purpose. We don't want it to look like it's just left alone to, overgrow itself.
Well, that's pretty much the way it's always been, all these years. No one's putting any time into going around the banks of the river, up the lake, and doing what you're doing. But it's a great idea. Great idea, and I hope we can keep it going. I'll volunteer for a couple hours.
All right, I'll sign you up.
Me down.
Hey, could I have your email address?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Bree, BRIEW Reynolds, REYNOLDS @gmail.com. I can put that in the chat too, if that makes it easier.
No, I just got it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I actually have a question for Bill on this topic while he's here, and I don't know if you can answer it, but
oh yeah, and I should say that Bill has been a nice partner to us also as part of the town, working on that Hall Park patch and talking about, different things that we were hoping to do. So yeah, anyway, sorry. I realized I'd left that out of the conversation. Hi, Bill.
Hey, how we doing? Good.
Good.
Bill?
As it goes, like for the, there are a couple spots around the lake where there's sort of heavier duty invasives, like knotweed or, buckthorn can be really hard. And I've definitely seen examples where other removals have been ill-timed and it doesn't do anything. Is like, who in town actually would handle invasive removals? Like, do we have town employees that could?
Yeah, it's my group. So yeah, typically what ends up happening is that as I'm doing work around the lake, it gets tacked on to the permit. So we ended up doing that. So that's where the stuff for Hall Park came in, right? So you folks had asked that we look at, kind of reestablishing that area. So I think at the time I had talked that, FLLQ was going to be out there doing it. So we kind of work with those folks to do it. Other areas, it's been done either by our contractor while they're installing. They'll do the removal in those areas, and then the ongoing maintenance for the next couple of years and the monitoring, all that gets done either as a combination through ourselves, our contractor, or the friends as well. They've done that for us here too.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so if there's a specific area, I mean, I see some areas, obviously. I mean, I think that, like, you know, the Lower Common's a good spot. I mean, that's a great example where, again, it's erosion, you know, that trail erodes, deposits that stuff, all the invasives come in, they seed themselves in that stuff, that sediment that's washing in, and then we have the big bloom of all the Phragmites that are sitting there. So, I mean, there's plenty of spots all along, and I'm sure you know where they are. If there's specific spots, let me know, and I can
Yeah.
always tag them in to my project. Like, typically Rebecca and I would work together on that as I'm envisioning projects, right? And saying, all right, here's something I'm coming to do. That's when we would start talking about it.
okay. Yeah, because like what I saw, I think the Lower Common, that's the big beach area in front of the bandstand.
Yeah. Yep.
There's cattails, which
Yeah,
are
yep.
native, but then there's knotweed that's getting bigger that
Mhm.
has been getting mowed.
Yep.
And so like I would love to I'd helped Elaine to kind of look through a lot of the research on like what's sort of best practice now for controlling knotweed. And it's just, for example, mowing is like the worst thing you could do because you spread little pieces, but could we, like, if we have suggestions or best practices, can we work with you to kind of tweak that approach and help with the protocol? And the other thing that seems to come up a lot is timing. And like you can walk and Break Heart Reservation and see, for example, in the energy line where they applied herbicide too early and the buckthorn is just growing everything is dead but the buckthorn, so
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I have example invasive species like removal plans and all of that. So that got filed with our Best Field project that included a whole management plan. So we can look at that and maybe dovetail that with what Bree's doing and try to come up with a management plan. I don't see a problem with that. We have funds for stuff like this. So it's, we just, typically I like to do it when I'm doing more work in the area because I have more equipment. I have folks that, I can contract to do it. So, but we can figure something out. It might take a year or two to get it going, but we can make that happen.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about as far as this goes? Nope, all quiet. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item.
Thank you, Bree, for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
And,
Thank you all for having. I'm looking forward to the beginning of a good collaboration.
I'm serious. Next time you're out there, if someone gets me a message, I'll come out and help you.
Oh yeah, I will definitely reach out.
Thank you. The next topic is the bylaw discussion. Judy probably is one to.
Yeah, I had a Zoom meeting with Bronwyn and Jennifer Fanning, and we just went over the elements that the commission has requested be included in the bylaw. So a draft will be developed, and then we can tweak it from there. So it's just in the formative phase at this point.
Okay. All right.
And Eleanor wanted to ask something about Town Day.
Oh, just if we had things, if we'd done this before and had materials to bring, or if we should think about putting stuff together.
Well, Judy had some stuff left over from last time, didn't you, Judy?
No, it's all gone. All you need is like one board that has some wetland information. People aren't
Okay.
going to take handouts. I did a craft with the kids. I mean, I would just keep it simple. Because
Okay.
there's really low traffic around
Is that coming up?
the town board tables.
Okay.
Would it make sense to have a few printed copies of the application to try and encourage people to join us?
You
I
can.
do.
When is this due? When is it gonna have this? What Saturday is it? What date?
I thought it was the 15th.
Of September.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a little bit of time.
How much? Sorry, is it Saturday the 14th?
Miles and we'll come up with something. I don't know yet.
The 14th is a Saturday, yes.
We'll have to talk about this.
You don't want to overcomplicate it though, because people, if they have questions on certain, they may have certain questions on projects or the trails or, you could have trail steward information, something like that. But the biggest attraction was the craft, so, and the candy.
Yeah. Yeah, where did you get those little,
I made them, Jimmy. That
where
was
did
a
you
lot of
buy it?
work.
Yeah, you put them together, but where did you buy it?
Hey, I had to punch all the holes in that. That was a lot of work. I bought it on Amazon.
No.
You can't do that again. The fireflies were once in a lifetime craft.
Why? Because you don't want
Because it
anyone
was
else.
retired.
Oh, sorry, we
Because
might,
no one else would put all the work into it, that's why.
we're gonna steal your thunder, I guess, huh?
Well, if you want to try to do it, good luck.
It's for a worthy, it's for a worthy cause. You should be
Yeah,
jumping
okay.
at it.
I know, and I did my time for that.
Okay. Well, I think we need to explain what conservation does, basically.
Well, you have to get people to the table first. That's the problem.
Well, we'll stand out there and flag them down.
Well, it's a low traffic area where you're located. That's the
How do you
thing.
know how do you know where we're located?
It's gonna be the same place as last time. They
Okay.
put the light department, DPW, the planning board, ZBA, all in the same area.
And nobody goes there.
Well, there were some people, because
Mhm,
they like crafts, they like free food, so they came by and grabbed candy.
mhm.
I want a little, I don't know if they were butterflies or what else. What did you make, Judy, that you
A
gave out,
Fireflies with the kids, the light up fireflies.
which went over very well.
Yeah, it did. It was a big hit.
We even had some adults putting them together.
Yeah, I know.
for the kids.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. All right,
I just
we'll-
wouldn't go overboard on printing anything because people don't really take handouts. I think it's better just to have
Okay.
one visual thing and. it
gotta
just-
get something, some.
Right, you can have one board, a visual of something, and then it just sparks a conversation.
Okay,
And sometimes it's trails, like when I was at the farmer's market, the trails were a big topic.
mhm,
So just think of one topic and then you can just expound on that. That's my suggestion.
okay. Well, we can
Have
show
there
them.
been any applicants for new members? It's been posted for a couple weeks now.
Not that I know of. Elaine, have you seen any applicants?
I haven't seen anything.
Hi, Ethan. How's it going?
I am doing good. How are you?
Good? Did you get signed up for the class?
Not yet. I'll
Okay.
do it though this week.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yep.
Ethan's gonna try to sign up for a couple of classes.
Good.
You know, one is the wetland delineation, a day-long training. It's not really a class, just a training.
Maybe you should go.
EP?
No, it's through MACC.
Oh, MACC, okay, yeah. Makes sense.
What else? Anyone want to talk about? Vacations?
Nothing for a while for me.
You look like you're tired.
Yeah, I spent the afternoon sailing, warming
Did you
up.
really? Did you really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Where'd you go sailing?
on the harbor.
wow.
So cool.
Yeah, that is cool. All right, well, we might as well end the meeting.
Okay,
Oh, there is a new app that I gave to the trail stewards that can geolocate if there's trash or anything. So when they're out on the trails, they can just put a little pin. Oh, that was pretty neat.
What's the app called?
That's a good question. I'll send it to you. I'll have to
yeah.
find it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Who gets the geolocation information then?
We can use that once we have a trail mapping system, but it can also be sent to the state has a trail mapping, and they'll put anything on the maps that you send them.
Okay.
So things like that. But the trail stew that I spoke to, the Maple Way Trail, he said there weren't any problems out there, and I haven't heard about any, big trash or anything like that from other ones, but I thought it was a good thing to have, because
Yeah.
that was a lot of the feedback on the open space plan, was the amount of, there were, I don't know, comments about mattresses on trails. I haven't heard one comment about that, so I don't know where that was happening. But if there were something like that, then that would come in handy, for DPW to go out to.
Yeah, get out there and clean them up.
Yeah.
Like a carpet in the lake kind of thing. It's a little too hard to fish out
Right.
by hand, but the GPS locator would be great.
Yeah.
Anything else? Ethan, how was, well, we've got Judy, you're talking to Judy, right?
I'm taking care of him.
I know, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm inundating him with materials.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm getting him
Okay.
set up.
yeah, all right, that's good to hear.
He's gonna grow right into this role.
I know, I'm afraid of that.
Me too.
Don't worry, he's got me.
Great.
What could go wrong?
Eleanor, is there
Sorry.
anything you want to say? Are you set for tonight? Can she hear me or not?
Who?
She's on mute.
Who are you talking to?
Muted me.
Oh,
I think you muted me, but
I didn't.
no, what about a map of the wetlands in Wakefield? I think people don't realize how many wetlands there are. And, maybe pointing out some, like a big blown up thing. And Judy, you know best what people kind of gravitate towards, but a big visual, and maybe we're pointing some of the trails and things, and, also more informational about what we do.
There are some trail maps. They'd have to be blown up. The wetlands, I would kind of steer away from that, because then,
Okay.
only because people assume if the wetland isn't on the map, it doesn't exist. And then it can turn, that can be a tricky thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I had a bunch of fact sheets about why wetlands are important, different
Okay.
things like that, things about vernal pools.
Okay. All right, I can reach out to you later.
Okay.
Right, is everyone all set for tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, I need a motion to close the hearing, the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I have a
I'll
second.
Second.
All in favor by roll call? Eleanor,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Okay.
Okay,
See you all in September.